Welcome back, Spider Pig. Y'all already know we got another video. Today we're gonna do Billy and Mandy. Shouts out to them. Let me put these on here right, so now I can go do it like that. Wait.
Well done. You created our world! Kiss my converse.
See right there.
Damn, the footwork is excellent.
Welcome back everyone to another awesome video where today we are about to slash our way through the grim adventures of Billy and Mandy. Before we begin, I quickly want to shout out the following chart makers on screen. I essentially combined a bunch of entries from their charts and added some new ones to create the following chart that we are using for today's video. If you're excited to relive one of the greatest Cartoon Network shows in existence and possibly learn something new about the show, then drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel. But with all that said, let's grab our scythe, sneeze our heart out, and jump right into this iceberg. Grim and Evil. Grim and Evil was a series created by Maxwell Adams for Cartoon Network which consisted of two segments, being The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy and Evil Con Carne, which were eventually spun off into their own separate shows. The series premiered on August 24th, 2001 and ended its 13-episode run on October 18th, 2002. However, there were an additional 14 episodes made for the series but were aired on Cartoon Network when the series was split into two shows in 2003. Evil Con Carne. The second half of Grim and Evil, Evil Con Carne, follows the adventures of Hector Con Carne, a wealthy playboy hell-bent on world domination, whose body is destroyed in a tremendous explosion, with his only surviving organs, being his brain and stomach, transported into jars and attached to a circus bear named Boskov by Major Dr. Ghastly. Hector, his military leader General Scar, and Dr. Ghastly created a secret lab on an island, known as Bunny Island, and continued their plans for world domination while also searching for Hector's missing body parts. Once Billy and Mandy and ECC were separated from each other, Evil was cancelled shortly after, once the already made episodes previously seen on Grim and Evil were aired. The series was then given another short run in 2004, but was cancelled again. However, characters from the series, like General Scar, became reoccurring characters on Billy and Mandy beginning in the second season. Negative continuity. The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy is widely recognized for its utilization of negative continuity, a storytelling technique where events and consequences from previous episodes are disregarded in subsequent episodes. The show frequently presents characters trapped in seemingly inescapable predicaments or enduring irreversible circumstances, only to have everything return to normal without any explanation on how the issues were resolved since the last episode. One of the biggest examples of another show utilizing negative continuity is Aqua Teen, which we've talked about in the Aqua Teen Iceberg. A character can basically die in one episode and then somehow come back to life in the next, as if nothing happened at all. Here are some instances of this reoccurring phenomenon in the series. In the episode Which Came First, Puddin's limbs are eaten by Spurg. In the episode Scythe for Sale, Erwin is turned into a sea monkey, then subsequently eaten by another sea monkey. In the episode Billy and Mandy Begins, Billy, Grim, Mandy, and Erwin are swallowed by the giant sea serpent. And in the episode The Incredible Shrieking Mandy, Mandy keeps enlarging and ends up in the realm of the infinite, with other creatures that grow at infinite pace. Erwin is Dracula's grandson. It's confirmed in the Billy and Mandy episode, Dracula Must Die, that Dracula is in fact Erwin's grandfather, making Erwin 1/4 vampire. And to add on to this, in the episode That's My Mummy, we learn that Erwin's mother is a real mummy, making Erwin half mummy as well. Of course, these vampire mummy powers are eventually shown off in the Underfist special, which we will discuss later on in this video. Intro tombstones. If you look closely at the tombstones featured in the opening to Billy and Mandy, you could see etched on the tombstones the names of 3 canceled Cartoon Network shows: Evil Con Carne, Time Squad, and Whatever Happened to Robot Jones. While there is no real explanation for why these 3 shows are listed on tombstones in the intro of Billy and Mandy, it's heavily implied that this gesture was a sign of respect. Grimm is Jamaican. So according to series creator Maxwell Adams during a 2013 interview with YouTuber Rebel Taxi, his original idea for Grimm's voice was for him to sound British, sort of like Dr. Smith from Lost in Space. Adams had actually had Jonathan Harris, who played Dr. Smith, come in to audition for the role of Grimm, but it just didn't feel right. So when Greg Eagles came in to audition for Grimm, he started doing a Jamaican accent, or spoke in a way that just sounded like he was attempting to do a Jamaican accent, and Adams found the voice to be very entertaining. Billy and Mandy Destroy Us All, a cosmic horror musical. So in early 2021, Maxwell Adams revealed that he wrote a brand new Billy and Mandy movie and eventually pitched it to Cartoon Network, but the network declined the film, stating that children today would have no idea who these characters are, which isn't wrong, but Jesus man, the truth really hurts. Later on in the fall of 2021, Adams took to Tumblr to reveal the title of the script, Billy and Mandy Destroy Us All, a cosmic horror musical, along with a cover image. As you can see by the artwork, Grimm is sporting a new robe with an M in the center. My guess is that it stands for Mandy. Mandy is all grown up and is even wielding a scythe of her own. And Billy is still a child, which is really interesting. Seeing this concept art really breaks my heart because I would love to see a continuation or even a proper conclusion to the series. However, Adult Swim is scheduled to take over the 6 p.m. time slot on Cartoon Network beginning sometime in August, and the plan is to begin a new block called Checkered Past, which will air classic Cartoon Network shows like Dexter, Ed, Edd and Eddy, and of course, Billy and Mandy. You know, we live in a world where nostalgia sells, so there's a chance that the network is testing the waters by replaying old properties to see which shows would be popular enough for a comeback. If the viewership for Billy and Mandy goes up, then maybe the canceled revival or continuation movie could still happen. We'll just have to wait and see. Fingers crossed. Mandy's smile. Mandy is known for barely showing any joyful emotions. She is mostly depicted as having a stone-cold poker face, but sometimes she'll also appear shocked and surprised. However, she has smiled before. In the episode My Fair Mandy, a revelation unfolds that whenever Mandy smiles, the consequences have a profound impact. However, Grimm, Billy, and Krabina realize too late that their actions in making Mandy smile have disrupted the natural order. The disruption leads to a catastrophic implosion of reality, resulting in Billy, Mandy, and Grimm, and Erwin being transported to the city of Townsville, the setting of the Powerpuff Girls. In previous episodes like Meet the Reaper, Opposite Day, Look Alive, A Dumb Wish, Crushed, and Test of Time, Mandy has displayed smirks without any significant consequences. However, since those episodes were technically part of Grimm and Evil, the effect of Mandy's smile was not yet established by the writers. Mandy's smile has also been featured in select Cartoon Network bumpers and comic stories. Billy and Mandy parodied Dune. Billy and Mandy have referenced the Dune franchise several times throughout the series. Mindy's talent act from the episode My Fair Mandy is based on a scene from 1984's Dune. Principal Good Vibes says, "Gam Jabbar," before Mindy places her hand inside of a box, which is held by a figure wearing a cloak of sorts, claiming that it burns. In the episode Scarred for Life, Scar can be seen wearing the same outfit that Sting wore from the 1984 version of Dune. There are probably a few other smaller references to Dune, but the biggest reference in the series is the episode Mandy the Merciless. Mandy assumes the character of Leto from the book, embodying a human who has discovered the path to eternal life by transforming into a worm-like entity. In this portrayal, Mandy exerts control over the world by monopolizing the global reserves of cinnamon, serving as the equivalent of the novel's spice, which carries the aroma of cinnamon. Additionally, Mandy exhibits a peculiar weakness towards frogs, mirroring Leto's vulnerability to water. Billy takes on the character of Duncan Idaho, a companion who accompanies Leto throughout various eras and is repeatedly cloned when his current body reaches its end. Similar to Duncan, Billy makes the choice to assist the rebels in the story. Grimm assumes dual roles in the story, embodying both the assistant character Monio from the novel and the rebel character Siona. In a departure from Leto in the novel, Mandy deceives the rebels with her actions. Similar to Leto, Mandy possesses the ability to foresee future events, including Billy's betrayal and the impending rebellion attack. Cartoon Network's Big Pick. The Big Pick was a special event that took place during Cartoon Weekend in the summers of 2000 and 2001. It featured a 53-hour marathon of original programming on Cartoon Network. Viewers were given the opportunity to vote for their favorite pilot episode among 10 series pilots. The winning pilot from the first Big Pick in 2000 was Grim and Evil, while the winner for the second Big Pick in 2001 was codenamed Kids Next Door. These winning shows were then developed into half-hour cartoons for the fall seasons of 2001 and 2002. However, the Big Pick event was discontinued after 2002. And all I gotta say is thank Buddha that both of these shows made it through before the Big Pick was discontinued. Damn, why haven't I made a K&D video yet? You know what, that's coming right after this. The creators got away with a lot of wild crap. Besides the fact that two 9-year-old children are best friends with Death himself, Maxwell Adams and the show's team really did get away with a lot of crazy, dark, and twisted moments. Like in the episode Chocolate Sailor, when Billy eats so much chocolate that he himself turns into chocolate and starts eating himself alive before blowing up. Or Puddin' versus the bunny in the episode Wishbones. The bag of shit that Billy thought was shampoo. And not to mention the crazy amount of other adult jokes thrown into the mix. Uranus. Ha ha ha. I miss the show so much. Please, Cartoon Network, from the bottom of my heart, give Mr. Adams some money and just greenlight Destroy Us All. That would make me very happy. Underfist. Underfist Halloween Bash, or just Underfist, is a spin-off special of Billy and Mandy. It originally aired on October 28th, 2008, and was going to be the setup for a brand new series focused on Scar, Haas Delgado, Jeff the Spider, Fred Burger, and Irwin, saving the world from monsters. But the contract for Maxwell Adams with Cartoon Network expired, and the special was ultimately set as the finale of the Grim and Evil franchise. Cartoon Network's president at the time, Stuart Snyder, also chose to focus on new ideas which included live action, which we all remember how that went. Ugh, yikes. This move resulted in longtime creators from Cartoon Network such as Adams, Mr. Warburton, the creator of K&D, and Craig McCracken, the creator of the Powerpuff Girls and Foster's Home, to leave the network. However, in a personal Tumblr post in 2021, Adams claimed that his decision to leave the network was not voluntary, as the special resulted in his firing by Michael O'Wellin, however you say it, for ruining Cartoon Network's brand with his gross-out humor. Well, damn, Michael, whatever your last name is, why did you have to do my childhood dirty like that? Kids Next Door crossover. The Grim Adventures of the Kids Next Door is a half-hour crossover special featuring the Kids Next Door and the Billy and Mandy crew, which was released on November 11th, 2007, and was written by Mr. Warburton and Maxwell Adams, the creators of each series. During the crossover, Billy mistakenly gets Grimm's scythe stuck in his father's lucky pants while wearing them, and despite his best attempts, he fails to free himself from the pants and seeks assistance from Sector V for help. This special also briefly features the Eds from Ed, Edd and Eddy, which I thought was a really nice touch. The crossover also features a ton of Cartoon Network cameos as well, like the Powerpuff Girls, Mac and Goo from Foster's Home, Andy Johnson from Squirrel Boy, which is a show I totally forgot about until now, Adam Lyon from My Gym Partner's a Monkey, Dexter, Dee and Mandark from Dexter's Lab, and probably some others. I would love to cover this specific crossover for a future video, so hey, let me know in the comments below if you guys want to see that. Cartoon Network Invaded. So I made an entire video discussing the Cartoon Network Invaded event if you guys want to check that out for yourselves, but to briefly summarize, CN Invaded was a month-long event that ran from May 4th through May 28th, 2007, and featured a giant crossover between aliens from outer space and 5 Cartoon Network originals, those being Foster's Home, Ed, Edd and Eddy, My Gym Partner's a Monkey, Camp Lazlo, and of course, Billy and Mandy. In the crossover, the aliens are invading Earth in search of cheese. Now, the reason why the aliens are after cheese, or I guess the reason why cheese is even involved in this crossover, is because Kraft, the mac and cheese guys, sponsored the crossover. However, they backed out of the plan at the last minute. I'll leave a link to my Invaded video in the bio below if you guys want to check it out after this. Billy and Mandy are not siblings. In the early seasons of the show, there was a big misconception among some fans who mistakenly believed that Billy and Mandy were in fact siblings. However, this misconception was playfully addressed in a later episode when Billy's dad Harold humorously mentions to Gladys that he had mistakenly thought Mandy was their daughter. Furthermore, it appears that there have been instances where the show's description on Netflix, yes, Billy and Mandy was on Netflix for a bit, mistakenly referred to Billy and Mandy as siblings. These errors in the description likely added to the confusion among viewers. Layer 1 done. Booyah, let's go. Woo.
Pass the eggs, darling.
Fraggle, fraggle!
Rejected by Nickelodeon, Maxwell Adams initially introduced Billy and Mandy as characters in his college thesis. His college thesis would end up being called Trepanation of the Skull and You, which we'll talk about later in this video. Once he began working as an animator, he pitched a short film to Hanna-Barbera executives called Milkman, which revolved around an anthropomorphic milk carton rescuing the depicted missing children on its back. While that idea was turned down, the executives expressed interest in 2 characters from the project. Those 2 characters featured were Billy and Mandy. Encouraged by the reception, Adams was motivated to develop a story where the 2 characters befriend the devil. When he presented the revised short to Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network, only Cartoon Network was willing to give the green light for the show. However, the network executives had concerns about including the devil as a character, which led to the decision of replacing him with the Grim Reaper instead. In 2000, the short film won Cartoon Network's Big Picks viewer poll, which we talked about before, and eventually became a segment of the show called Grim and Evil before evolving into its own series, The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. Can you imagine if Nickelodeon didn't pass on Adventure Time or Billy and Mandy? You know how different that network would be? And if I'm not mistaken, I believe Danny Antonucci also pitched Ed, Ed, and Eddie to Nickelodeon at one point. I'm not sure if I'm remembering that correctly. Maybe I should go watch my Ed, Ed, and Eddie iceberg to learn, but yeah. Anyways, kudos to Cartoon Network for giving these creators a chance. Weird Al voices the Squid Hat. I didn't even know about this until recently, but the Squid Hat from the episodes Toadblatt's School of Sorcery, Nigel Planter and the Chamber Pot of Secrets, and One Crazy Summoner was voiced by none other than Weird Al Yankovic. How did it take me over a decade to learn this?
Put on your squid hat, baby!
Big Boogie Adventure. Billy and Mandy's Big Boogie Adventure is a Cartoon Network television movie which released on March 30th, 2007 in the United States and on February 14th, 2007 in the UK. It's Billy, Mandy, Irwin, and Grim versus the Boogeyman in an epic tale of monsters, pirates, futuristic robots, evil artifacts, and snot. When the underworld strips Grim of his powers due to years of Billy and Mandy abusing them, Billy, Mandy, Grim, and Irwin must race against the Boogeyman and a crew of monster pirates to capture Horror's Hand, a powerful artifact capable of making whoever wields it into the scariest being alive. Wrath of the Spider Queen. Billy and Mandy Wrath of the Spider Queen is a 2-part special from Season 7 of the series which premiered on July 7th, 2007. You know, I always remembered this 2-part special being a movie, but I guess I remembered incorrectly, or maybe the wiki is just wrong. It doesn't matter. When Grimm's past comes back to haunt him, Billy and Mandy must join forces with their greatest enemies, Jeff the Spider and Mindy respectively, to save the day from evil spiders trying to take over the whole world, and to do that, Billy must conquer his fear of spiders. Hanna-Barbera pilot. Meet the Reaper was the very last new cartoon that wasn't a continuation of a legacy franchise to be made under the Hanna-Barbera name and bear its logo. By the time Grim and Evil formally began, the transition from Hanna-Barbera to Cartoon Network Studios was complete. The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy video game. The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy is a fighting video game developed by High Voltage Software, published by Midway Games, and released on September 25th, 2006 for the PlayStation 2 and GameCube, on October 31st, 2006 for the Game Boy Advance, which was developed by Full Flat, and on November 19th, 2006 in North America for the Wii. The game basically puts characters from the series against each other in 3D arena battles using various attacks, items, and environmental hazards to eliminate opponents and be the last one standing. The game received a mixed reception upon release, with critics praising its presentation, faithfulness to the source material and multiplayer, but criticizing its shallow gameplay and lack of content. And according to one of my viewers, Flamingo Radio, shout out to you, there are 4 secret unlockable characters in the game: a Viking, a chicken, Nurgling, and a clown. Well, they won't be a secret after I'm done explaining how to unlock them. To unlock the Viking, players must beat the story mode with all characters and destroy every letter in the credits sequence. To unlock the Chicken, players must complete story mode with all characters and accumulate 10 hours of gameplay time. To unlock Nurgling, players must beat the story mode with all characters. And to unlock the Clown, players must beat the story mode once with every character and fight a total of 100 versus mode matches. Speaking of video games, Billy and Mandy characters are featured in the 3DS game Cartoon Network Punch Time Explosion, and from what I've been told, they're the most powerful characters in the game. Flash games. I know there's no real point in talking about Flash games on an iceberg, like I don't think any creator really does that, but I personally enjoy mentioning them in my iceberg videos, and I'm not going to stop doing that. To no one's surprise, Cartoon Network crapped out a bunch of Billy and Mandy Flash games. There's Billy the Kid Fighting, Battle of the Bands, Billy's Bag-a-Bug, which was part of a crossover game, Cabin Fever Field Day, Bone to Bone, Battle Forts, which is an Evil Con Carne game, Big Top Billy, Evil Switch, Escape from the Shadows, Fredburger's Game of Yes, Fast and Greasy, Grimball, Guide of the Dead, Grimm's Downfall, Heads Will Roll, Harm Scarring, Infernal Candy, Magnet Face, Nostradamus, One Day's Rain, Popping Spines, Solar Wind, Super Zero, Sticky Escape, Roller Coasters of Horrors, The Fright Before Christmas, The Grim Keeper, The Grim Towers of Billy and Mandy, and Zap to It. Characters from Billy and Mandy have also made appearances in some crossover Flash games, like the 2010 Toon Cup, Astro Quiz, Cartoon Cove, Cricket Opet Championship, Free Kick All-Stars, Get It Together, In Search of Summer, Make a Calendar, Picnic Pickoff, Operation Zero Outmandied, which is a remake of Operation Zero Outnumbered, Snow War, Slippery Disc, Super Snowmobile Rally, Snow Brawl Fight 1, 2, and 3, Toon Hoops, and Billy is featured in the Ed Touchables. I'm definitely missing a couple games, so just comment below the ones that I missed. Billy's Ziggy Stardust costume. For those who don't know, Ziggy Stardust is a character created by David Bowie and was his stage persona between 1972 and 1973. Now, let me ask you guys a question. Where else have you seen this persona before? Yeah, go ahead. I'm waiting. Okay, good. Correct! Billy wore an identical costume while performing Scario in Big Boogie Adventure. This guy is supposed to be Slash from Guns N' Roses as well. Pokemonsters. Pokemon, which is an obvious parody of Pokemon, is a card game that Billy and Erwin are super addicted to. In the episode, it's Hokemon. Comics. While there was never a dedicated Billy and Mandy comic book series like a lot of other Cartoon Network shows had, there are tons of comics that feature the series. IWD Publishing released a 6-issue comic miniseries involving a crossover between 5 Cartoon Network originals: Ben 10, The Powerpuff Girls, Dexter's Lab, Ed, Edd and Eddy, and Samurai Jack. That series was called Super Secret Crisis Wars. Aku from Samurai Jack creates a league of villains from different worlds, and it's up to the stars of each series to team up and stop those bastards. Now, although The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy is not a major series involved, the show still plays a pivotal role in the story. One of Aku's robots ends up merged with one of Vilgax's robots due to a malfunction, Vilgax being one of the main antagonists of the Ben 10 series, in case anyone didn't know. Long story short, the robot lands at Ennsville Elementary. Billy wants to keep the robot and name it Samuel, Mandy wants to get rid of it, and Grim is confused by its existence. The robot starts causing havoc, and the trio try and stop the chaos. The gang also appear on the cover, and there are multiple variants of that cover. Billy and Mandy have also made appearances in the Cartoons and CN Block Party comics. The Yes Era. The Yes Era, also referred to as the Red and Post-City Era, marked the 5th phase of Cartoon Network. It commenced on April 3rd, 2006, taking over from CN City as the primary branding for the network, while still featuring occasional appearances of the city bumpers. The era came to a close on May 31st, 2007, as the summer 2007 look took its place. This era of Cartoon Network was named after Fredburger's classic line, "Yes!" And the bumpers featured a slew of Cartoon Network characters, including the cast of Billy and Mandy. Billy and Mandy characters have also made appearances in numerous bumpers and promos across various eras of Cartoon Network, extended beyond the Yes Era. These characters have been featured in the Powerhouse Era, Cartoon Network City Era, 2007 Summer Era, and 2007 Fall Era, showcasing their presence and popularity throughout multiple periods of the network's history. Dead Meat. Maxwell Atoms had been working on a new series for a few years called Dead Meat, which is supposed to be a post-apocalyptic black comedy and social satire puppet gore web series. The series is the story of a lovable mutant mutt, the Dead Meat of the title, who dreams of being like his hardcore mutant hunting master James Heck Heckler, who Dead Meat rescued from a sticky situation. Dead Meat wants Heck to return the favor and spare the life of battle priestess Suzuki Jackson, an act which could undermine Heck's entire lifestyle and even have world-shattering repercussions. To bring his idea to life and gain visibility on the internet, Adams initiated a Kickstarter campaign to secure funding for the project. As part of this effort, he released an announcement video that featured the voice of Dana Snyder, known for his role as Master Shake on Aqua Teen. Kickstarter donos also had the opportunity to win various prizes, including Billy and Mandy toys, pillows, posters, tarot cards, Underfist t-shirts, and numerous other exciting items. However, in 2020, Adams gave a terrible update on the project by announcing that he was planning on refunding everyone's money because he unfortunately could not fulfill the Kickstarter for a few reasons. Simply put, Adams had to make a lot of personal sacrifices for Dead Meat, which upset him. He planned on finishing the trailer and 2 full scenes with the footage he managed to film and wants to use the footage to pitch the series to a network or streaming service. He eventually released the Dead Meat script to the public and reassured everyone that they would receive their money. And to my absolute shock, every comment I saw on Adams' Kickstarter updates was overwhelmingly positive, telling Adams to keep the money and to keep up the awesome work, which really warms my heart a bit. You know, I don't know Adams personally, but he seems like such a great and wonderful guy, and I just hope that he doesn't stop creating. End credits backmasking. The end credits of The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy include a backmasking message from creator Maxwell Atoms. When the audio of the outro is played in reverse, you can hear Adams saying, "No, no, this is the end of the show. You're watching it backwards." And bingo, bango, bongo, that was the second layer of the iceberg.
It's my dream dog. He's my best friend ever. I'll never let him go.
Trepanation of the Skull and You. Trepanation of the Skull and You is a short film and animated pilot that The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy creator Maxwell Atoms created in college back in 1998. Once thought lost, Maxwell Atoms eventually rediscovered the short and premiered it on April 30th, 2016 at Trom Animated Festival and uploaded the short to YouTube the following day. In the video, Mandy engages in a conversation about tree panning, which is an ancient surgical procedure with roots dating back to early human history. This procedure involves drilling a circular hole and removing a piece of bone, typically from the skull. The purpose of tree panning varied, ranging from relieving pressure to expelling malevolent spirits, at least according to the beliefs held by our ancestors, those crazy bastards. So Mandy undergoes the procedure herself and proceeds to describe the process to Billy, sparking his curiosity to give it a try as well. Encouraged by Mandy, Billy decides to experience it firsthand, so Mandy takes a drill and proceeds to create a hole in Billy's skull. Billy and Mandy are voiced by Adams and his sister, and it's also worth mentioning that Billy's appearance remains fairly consistent with his final design, though his personality went from somewhat normal to complete idiot, while Mandy undergoes significant changes. In her previous design, Mandy appeared cheerful, energetic, and had pigtails. Additionally, both characters appeared taller. However, in the final design, Mandy and Billy are depicted as shorter, and Mandy's hair is styled like horns and she's not as cheerful. This is what Maxwell Atoms had to say about the short via the description of his YouTube video. "This is the film I made in college featuring a slightly different than you're used to Billy and Mandy. It came out of dormancy last night at the Trom Animation Festival, and now I'm putting it up here in a slightly more watchable state. The film was made in 1998, I believe, as my junior thesis. The directive was to make a 2-minute animation, and that's what I did. I was big into fringe culture at the time and found tree panning fascinating. I also wanted to do something with this Billy character I was obsessed with, and I had to have some dinosaurs. The animation was hand-drawn on paper, colored in markers, and then cut out and glued to cells. I thought that would save time over painting cells, but the cut and glue process really sucked, so I was probably wrong about that. The film never looked great, but the version you see here was transferred from 16mm shot on a World War II era Bolex, which was transferred to VHS, then DVD, then ripped for your viewing pleasure. So yeah. Sorry about the quality. The characters, my style, and my sense of humor developed over the years, hopefully for the better. I'll let you decide. This is in the comments below, but I thought I'd put it up here since people keep asking. If you're wondering why this doesn't look like the splattery, colorful animation cell that appeared as an unlock in the video game and elsewhere, that cell was painted by me during and after the making of this film. I couldn't afford to produce a whole film in color, so the other piece of art is essentially a missing link bridging this short and my Cartoon Network pilot. Hope that helps. www.shinizuga.com. In the episode The Secret Snake Club, Grim is told to log into shinizuga.com by Wiggly to resurrect a snake from the past. Now, this website no longer exists, but years ago, when this episode first premiered, if you searched shinizuga.com, it would take you to this website. And then I think for a while after, it redirected people to the Cartoon Network website, but now it just doesn't exist anymore. Other crossovers, cameos, and references. Billy and Mandy is known for not only crossing over into other shows, but also for featuring tons of characters from other properties as well. For example, Yogi Bear and Boo Boo ambush Billy for his picnic basket in the episode Here Thar Be Dwarves, and in Keeper of the Reaper, Yogi appears during the musical number. The two characters also appear as two of the many characters hit by Haas's truck in the episode Irwin Gets a Clue. Speaking of Haas's truck, Snagglepuss, Secret Squirrel, and Huckleberry Hound are amongst the characters either hit or almost hit by Haas's truck. Robot Jones's name is not only seen on a tombstone in the intro sequence, but a figurine of the character could also be seen in the background of Billy's room in various episodes. Mystery Inc. appears in the episode Reap Walking, and Scooby even testifies in Keeper of the Reaper. In the Underfist special, Mike, Lou, and Og appear inside a pumpkin-shaped parade float, and Chowder even makes a cameo as well. In the episode Herbicidal Maniac, Johnny Bravo is present at the pool party. In Giant Billy and Mandy All-Out Attack, Grape Ape briefly appears as one of the many kaiju in Japan. In the episode titled A Grim Prophecy, B. Rubble is included on Grimm's reaping list. Additionally, in the episode Modern Primitives, Billy discovers Fred Flintstone encased in a block of ice in his backyard, and Fred finds it challenging to adjust to modern society. The credits also feature appearances by Barney and Betty Rubble. In the episode Reap Walking, Gladys switches on the television to Fister's House for Crazy Weirdo Made-Up People. Okay, that's not funny. Hold on. Fister's House for Crazy... Come on! It's a parody of Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, and the background music even incorporates a modified version of the original show's theme song. Okay, we're good. We're fine. In the short episode Dream Date, it is revealed that all of the events depicted were actually a dream experienced by Wilt. This revelation causes Wilt to wake up feeling bewildered and exclaim that he doesn't even recognize the individuals he encountered in the dream. In Billy and Mandy Moon the Moon, Mac, Blue, Ed, Number 2, and Dexter are seen as cardboard cutouts in the moon base. Fred Burger makes a brief cameo in the courtroom in the Foster's Home Invaded episode, She's a Go-Go, and Billy's action figure, Dr. Brainiac, receives a gift from Frankie from Foster's Home during the ending credits of Moon the Moon. In The Grim Adventures of the Kids Next Door, Fred Burger says he likes watching shows about imaginary friends and also monkeys that go to camp, which are references to Foster's Home and Camp Lazlo. I did state previously that in The Grim Adventures of the Kids Next Door, Dexter, Dee Dee, and Mandark from Dexter's Lab, Mac and Goo from Foster's Home, the Powerpuff Girls, and Andy Johnson from Squirrel Boy are present in the crossover. All of these characters are seen exploding out of the Delightful Reaper, and Adam Lyon from My Jet Partner's a Monkey is seen during the Delightful Reaper's destruction. There are quite a number of Powerpuff Girls references in Billy and Mandy as well. In the episode The Crawling Niceness, Bubbles' beloved doll Octi appears on Billy's lamp. In the episode My Fair Mandy, Mandy's smile acts as a catalyst, causing the characters to assume the identities of the Powerpuff Girls. Professor Utonium emerges and informs the girls, in quotes, about their mission, while in the credits scene, Irwin makes an appearance as Mojo Jojo. During the Grim Adventures of the Kids Next Door, Billy expresses his disappointment when the K&D visits him, as he had hoped they would be the Powerpuff Girls. And in the episode Ultimate Evil of Evil Con Carne, as part of Boscov's training regimen, he is compelled to watch the Powerpuff Girls. In the episode Billy and Mandy vs. the Martians, Billy references the Kids Next Door when looking at a hologram of the Earth and a robot. In the episode Herbicidal Maniac, Cow from Cow and Chicken appears at the beginning of the episode, giving Scar a bag of fertilizer. That's that's great. In the movie Billy and Mandy's Big Boogie Adventure, number 3 is appointed by the court to temporarily assume the role of the Grim Reaper, which I'm going to talk about more in detail in the next entry because there's some pretty interesting information about why this happened. Skips, Ed, Slips, and Cheese also appear in the original ending of Cartoon Network Invaded, while K and D appears in the alternate ending. Of course, I mentioned previously that Ed, Ed, and Eddie made a cameo in The Grim Adventures of the Kids Next Door. Scar from Evil Con Carne became a regular character on Billy and Mandy, while Hector and Major Dr. Ghastly would make small cameos except for the episode Company Halt, which served as not only a proper crossover between Billy and Mandy and Evil Con Carne, but also the series finale of Evil Con Carne. This one's pretty interesting, but the Maxitomers from Ben 10 are a species of alien from an unknown planet that really resemble Billy. In the Uncle Grandpa Steven Universe crossover episode Say Uncle, Billy and Mandy are 2 of the names featured on the list. Grim makes a cameo in the OKKO episode crossover Nexus and appears in a magazine in the episode Party Monster. There are also lots of references to popular properties outside of Billy and Mandy, like Pinhead, Dora the Explorer, SpongeBob, Dune, etc. Now, I know I definitely forgot a lot of references and crossovers, so if I did forget any, which I know I did, leave them in the comments below. Number 3 becomes the Grim Reaper. According to Maxwell Adams, there were plans to introduce a new Grim Reaper character to replace Grim in Billy and Mandy's Big Boogie Adventure. Initially, the intention was for the new character to be voiced by Pamela Anderson. However, the executives at Cartoon Network desired a more prominent celebrity attached to the role. A list of suggestions were compiled consisting of either unavailable or highly rated and well-known actors. Due to time constraints, number 3 from the show Codename Kids Next Door was ultimately chosen as the replacement for Grim. Billy canonically killed Maxwell Adams. In the episode The Halls of Time, Billy accidentally drops the hourglass of an unnamed artist, causing the artist to disappear from existence. Billy's description of the unnamed artist as probably no one special was literally a depiction of Maxwell Adams. The character representing Adams is appropriately voiced by Adams himself. Therefore, Billy murdered his own creator. Billy and Mandy die in Halls of Time. According to another entry on one of the previous iceberg charts, in the episode Halls of Time, Billy, Mandy, Irwin, and Grim all apparently die in the episode. But look, if you want to be technical, they don't precisely die, but instead experience reverse aging, ultimately leading to their complete removal from existence. I don't really see that as dying, but I guess it just depends on who you ask and how they interpret it. It doesn't matter. Anyways, similar to Aquatine, and like I mentioned previously, Billy and Mandy follow a loose or negative continuity, where events in one episode are to some extent reversed or reset in subsequent episodes. So if you haven't seen Billy and Mandy before, and you're randomly watching this video, first of all, why? But second off, don't worry, they're still very much alive and existing after this episode. If you hate the idea of loose continuity and just want the series to flow better, just imagine that Father Time, or a worker, flipped over Billy, Mandy, Irwin, and Grimm's hourglasses, bringing them back to the land of the living, and that's why they're alive in the next episode. Grimm and Santa attended college together. As per Grimm's statement in the Christmas special Billy and Mandy Save Christmas, he and Santa Claus were classmates in college and have maintained a friendship even years after. Mrs. Claus has also kept in touch with Grimm as well. And bingo, bango, bongo, third layer is done. Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying the video so far. There's no real sponsor for this video, but hey, I'm open to them. You know, the business email's right here. Come on, gamer subs. Please respond to my emails, please. Real quick, I just wanted to self-promote my band Water and Red's brand new album, Disappointment, which just released on the 16th. It's primarily a pop-punk record, which is something new, something we've never done before, but there is a metalcore song along with a few other weird trinkets. If you want to check out the record, you can find it on Spotify, Apple Music, the Water on Red YouTube channel, etc. I'll throw all of the links in the bio below. And if you guys don't vibe with the music, then that's totally okay. It's not for everybody. We just appreciate the fact that you gave it a chance. Anyways, thank you for listening to me rant about my band. Now, let's get right back into the iceberg.
Am I the only one who understands the complexities of this ambitious cinematic masterpiece?
Two heiresses. According to Adams' notes, the characters Nice Heiress and Naughty Heiress were planned to be introduced in Underfist the series. The idea for their creation stemmed from a storyline in The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy's 6th season, specifically in the episode titled Chaos Theory. In this episode, Heiress goes through a breakup with Haas Delgado. Feeling desperate, Heiress accidentally splits into two distinct personalities, Nice Heiress and Naughty Heiress. Motivated by their desire for revenge against Haas, they become key adversaries for the Underfist superhero team. Now, Nice Heiress was designed to represent the romantic side of Heiress, with her blonde hair tied in a bun and dressed in a white gown. Nice Heiress aimed to be the epitome of the perfect girlfriend. However, her relentlessness pursuit of love and affection would have made her come across as bothersome, as she sought validation from everyone around her, embodying an overwhelming sense of suffocating affection. On the other hand, Naughty Heiress would have portrayed the darker side of Heiress, with her untamed black hair and donning a dark blue dress. Naughty Heiress embodied the archetype of a rebellious bad girl. Ooh, my kind of girl. She enjoyed listening to loud music, playing video games, and indulging in late-night ice cream. Naughty Heiress had ulterior motives and intended to involve Haas in her mischievous antics. The many planned Underfist sequels. So if Underfist continued beyond the Halloween movie, there would have been a lot more movies and specials. Underfist vs. the Dinosaurs was initially intended to be a sequel to Underfist. However, it never came to fruition as the project did not receive the green light from Cartoon Network executives. The only glimpse of this planned sequel was shown in the ending credits of the original, where Haas is engaged in a battle with a Tyrannosaurus accompanied by both heiresses while Irwin fought a Pteranodon. Additionally, during the credits song, the Underfist truck was depicted being pursued by a Ceratosaurus. Underfist against the Astro Vampires was intended to be the third and final film in the Underfist series following the events of Underfist vs. the Dinosaurs. The story would have unfolded in outer space with the Underfist team encountering Nephthys, the Egyptian goddess of mourning. Nephthys would have been portrayed as having the objective of ensuring that the undead remain in their graves. Additionally, the Astro Vampires from the Vampire Planet, led by Lord Malefactor, would have played a significant role in the plot. Rumors circulated suggesting that Underfist against the Astro Vampires would have released in 2010. Underfist Easter Beatdown was humorously presented as another sequel in the Underfist series, but it was not an actual planned project. It was merely a joke title card shown during the end credits of Underfist Halloween Bash. The title card depicted the character Bun Bun, who had returned as a yellow bunny, engaging in a bank heist. As Bun Bun evaded capture, he playfully threw Easter egg bombs at Jeff and General Scar, who were shown chasing after him. And Underfist Return of the Spider Queen was mentioned as a potential upcoming film in the Underfist series. In the credits of the previous installment, there was a scene depicting Fred Fredburger engaged in a battle with Velma Green, who appeared to have undergone some changes in her appearance. During the confrontation, Velma Green was shown summoning mechanical spiders, which is pretty badass. Oh, I almost forgot, there's also Underfist Action Squad Miami, Teaches Traffic Safety, and Babies, which, these are clearly jokes. These ones are clearly jokes. The Robot Chicken sketch. In the Robot Chicken Season 11 episode, May Cause the Exact Thing You're Trying to Avoid, Grim finally has enough of Billy and Mandy and chucks them out of an airplane and into an engine. Oh my god, that's brutal. This sketch also refers to the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 from years back, if you guys remember that. Grim claims that everyone on the flight was planning on visiting the island from Lost. Shout out to my friend Dan for reminding me of this gem. Please go check out his channel and give him some love. Billy and Mandy New Episodes Promo 2004. One of the final Billy and Mandy promos to air during the Powerhouse era was this clip of Grim driving around a neighborhood informing residents of new Billy and Mandy episodes in 2004. According to It's John-WV8EN in the comments of this promo on YouTube, this was right before the city rebrand. Only one episode of this season made it to air during the last days of the Powerhouse era. One thing to point out during that season of Billy and Mandy is that they revamped the backgrounds and again slightly updated the character designs, setting the overall look and feel apart from the Grim and Evil days. Giant Mexican Grim Robot. In a Cartoon Network Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead promo, I really hope I pronounced that right, I didn't take Spanish in high school. The robot from Megas XLR is seen fighting Grim from Billy and Mandy, who is controlling a giant robot. This promo was directed by Enrique Navarrete. Fake orgasm scene. In the episode Grim in Love, when Grim and Malaria are sitting inside the diner, Grim insists that he can tell if someone fakes their own death. Malaria then begins to scream and choke over-dramatically for about 30 seconds before fake dying. As it turns out, this is a parody of a scene from the 1989 film When Harry Met Sally, where Sally, played by Megan Ryan, loudly fakes an orgasm inside a restaurant in a similar manner. Irwin's brother. Melvin is a minor character in the series, appearing only once in the episode The Halls of Time. He is Irwin's older brother and shares a similar heritage, being half mummy from his mother and one-quarter vampire from his parental grandfather. An intriguing aspect is that Irwin's brother meets an unfortunate fate when the hourglass he possesses is dropped by Irwin in the episode The Halls of Time. Although the scene does not explicitly show the hourglass breaking, the inclusion of a glass shattering sound effect suggests that it was indeed shattered, leading to the brother's demise. Rip Melvin. However, he is briefly mentioned once more by Irwin in the episode Billy and Mandy Begins. When dangling above a giant worm that is about to eat Mandy, Billy, Grim, and himself, Irwin says, "This sort of thing never happens to my brother," confirming that Melvin is still around somewheres. Grimm's Boss creepypasta. There's a pretty well-known creepypasta based on Billy and Mandy titled Grimm's Boss. While the original creator of the creepypasta is unknown, as the story seems to be missing, YouTuber Gory Parody's production read and reviewed the creepypasta. If you would like to hear the full story, I would highly recommend watching Gory Parody's video. However, I will provide you with a brief summary of the creepypasta. In a rare and unique episode that aired exclusively on Adult Swim during Season 6, a rather mild storyline unfolds as Grimm extends a dinner invitation to his superior, who happens to be none other than the devil himself, Mr. Satan. Seeking a suitable apprentice, Satan considers various evil characters, including Scar and Eris, showcased by Grimm. However, everything changes when Satan catches a glimpse of Mandy's exceptional capabilities and offers her the coveted position. As the storyline progresses, Mandy seizes the opportunity and ultimately overthrows Satan, ascending to become the new ruler of the underworld. Okay, but why does this seem like a regular episode of Billy and Mandy? You know, it almost feels like this was a legitimate episode that really aired at one point in time. Mandy rides Lady Rainicorn. At 6:58 p.m. Eastern Pacific Time on October 1st, 2012, Cartoon Network concluded its birthday-themed programming with the world television premiere of a sweeping nostalgia-inducing original music video commissioned to celebrate the network's 20 years of animated entertainment. This 2-minute music video spotlights nearly 100 cartoon character all-stars who've contributed to Cartoon Network's remarkable legacy, and one of those characters spotted in this special promo is Mandy, and she is seen riding Lady Rainicorn from Adventure Time, along with tons of other Cartoon Network characters. Billy and Grim could also be seen in this promo as well. Cheese and Fred Burger canceled crossover. Craig McCracken, the creator of Foster's Home, Powerpuff Girls, and a slew of other popular animated shows, took to Twitter back in 2021 to answer a fan question. User Pie Mantis asked Craig if he ever wanted a Chowder and Billy and Mandy crossover with the Powerpuff Girls, and Craig responded with confirmation that he was in talks about creating a crossover series between Foster's Cheese and Billy and Mandy's Fred Burger. The series would have been called Cheeseburger, and it would have probably been the most annoying show in the history of mankind. However, this idea never came to fruition, but not because of Cartoon Network executives stepping in. This concept never became a reality simply due to conflicting schedules. If I had to make an educated guess on what the series would have been about, I would imagine Cheese and Fred Burger being roommates and annoying the ever-living Christ out of people. That sounds about right. Billy and Mandy's real names: William and Amanda. It sounds so wrong, but if you want to be technical, Billy is short for William, and Mandy is short for Amanda. Could you imagine the show being titled The Grim Adventures of William and Amanda? Or The Grimace Adventures of William and Amanda? Oh god, Jesus, that was dumb. Speaking of Grimace, did you guys try that new shake from McDonald's? I wonder which executive at McDonald's woke up and said, "Man, I want to milk Grimace like a cow and sell the remains as a shake." I'm getting off topic, I'm sorry. Bingo, bango, bongo, layer 4.
This movie isn't stupid! You're stupid!
Billy wears Adam's red zoot suit. In the episode Little Rock of Horrors, Billy is seen rocking Maxwell Adams' signature red zoot suit and hat. What's really interesting about this detail is that Maxwell Adams wore that exact same zoot suit when meeting the artist who performed the song Brains for this episode, Aurelio Voltaire. Voltaire is a goth musician, writer, director, and had just released his second album, Almost Human, at the time, and was touring in support of it. One place he would always perform was a spot called Bar Sinister, which is a goth club, and back in 2000, Adams' roommate would go there every Saturday. Now, Adams had never been there because apparently he was an introvert, but both of them were big fans of Voltaire's music. Adams was told that Voltaire was performing at Bar Sinister that night and was asked if he wanted to go, and of course, he said yes. However, Adams had a hidden agenda. He was very interested in asking Voltaire to create a song for the planned musical episode, which became Little Rock of Horrors. So Adams threw on his red zoot suit, went to the club, saw Voltaire perform, and approached him afterwards to see if he would be down. One thing led to another, and bingo, Voltaire created the song Brains. And I believe that Billy sporting the red zoot suit in the episode was to pay homage to what Adams wore that night when he met Voltaire. A little bit of extra information, but the Brains song is 5 minutes long because Voltaire wanted to get the longest pay session possible. Voltaire asked Adams how he was being compensated by the song, and Adams said, by the minute. Voltaire then asked how long the song could be, and Adams stated that the track could be no longer than 5 minutes. So Voltaire literally made the song 5 minutes to maximize his profits. Smart man. Random fact, but Voltaire also created the song Land of the Dead for Billy and Mandy's Big Boogie Adventure. There's a lot more detail to the story that I didn't cover in this entry, but I'll leave the rest up to Voltaire himself. If you guys want to learn about the song Brains or the story behind the song, check out Voltaire's video. Check out his music as well because the guy is just super talented. Multiple future timelines. The series has depicted multiple future timelines for Billy and Mandy characters. In Big Boogie Adventure, we would see a grown-up, light-hearted Mandy. However, in the episode Mandy the Merciless, future Mandy is depicted as a giant worm. In the episode Future Nerd, we see a grown-up Irwin, but we also see another older Irwin in Big Boogie Adventure as well. Mandy wasn't always evil. In the earlier seasons of The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, Mandy's character portrayed was not as consistently evil as it became in later seasons. Initially, she was depicted as a general mean and occasionally cruel girl. However, as the show progressed, Mandy's character evolved from being grumpy and vile to becoming a sadistic control freak with a relentless desire for power, even going to the extent of wanting to enslave the entire planet, which is pretty metal. Family Guy Billy and Mandy crossover. In 2004, a crossover comic titled Scooby-Doo Takes the Detour on Teletoon was released in the French comedy magazine called, I'm not even gonna attempt to say this, I took French in high school, but I took French in 9th grade, and 9th grade was like probably 8 or 9 years ago at this point, so like, look, trust me, you don't want to hear me try and pronounce this word. It's gonna come out weird. This comic brought together The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, Scooby-Doo, along with various other adult cartoon series including Family Guy, creating an exciting crossover storyline. Some of these images are pretty graphic, but there's one scene in particular where Grim literally slashes Brian from Family Guy, and it's pretty metal, bro. What's really funny about this comic is Billy and Mandy are portrayed as an adult cartoon, despite being a children's TV show here in the United States. Buenos dias, Mandy. Buenos dias, Mandy refers to a line of dialogue in a dirty comic book adaptation of Billy and Mandy. On June 12, 2016, e-hentai user Caglioro2016 posted this really fucking weird comic, which depicts Billy slapping Mandy inappropriately, resulting in her fighting back, causing Billy to stumble and have his arms run over by a car. What the hell is this? This comic apparently became a really popular meme during 2017, with Mars Reviews sharing the first page on Twitter in January of that year. Then a month later, YouTuber Caleb posted a bass-boosted video version of the comic. Now, if you search Buenos Dias Mandy on YouTube today, you'll stumble across tens of hundreds of these meme videos based on the comic. But when I first searched Buenos Dias Mandy, I didn't run into the comic immediately. No, instead, I first came across a video by YouTuber Chair G Tables, which shows a live-action adaptation of the meme, which I thought was hilarious. This is the stupidest thing ever, though. I don't get it. Billy is a genius. You know, Billy has always been presented as just a babbling idiot who enjoys picking his nose, yelling, and being the most obnoxious person in the entire universe, but sometimes there are brief moments in the series that make viewers go, hey, this kid isn't so stupid after all. One of those examples is during the episode Billy and Mandy vs. the Martians, when Billy and Grimm have a heart-to-heart of sorts. Billy explains to Grimm that he understands that Mandy is mean and Irwin is needy, but that's just who they are as people. Sometimes our friends are people we just don't really like. You can pick your friends and you can pick your nose, but you can't pick your friend's nose. You just have to let them be who they are and pick it themselves. Basically, Billy is trying to explain to Grimm that while we have the freedom to choose our friends, we do not have the authority or right to change or control them. Sometimes our friends have different opinions, different political views, different religions, have a different taste in music. They might be the type of person to put the toilet paper roll under, which is wrong, by the way. You're wrong if you do that. Really, the phrase, you can pick your friends, you can pick your nose, encourages a sense of tolerance and acceptance towards friends, recognizing that they have their own individuality and should be allowed to be themselves, just as you have the freedom to be yourself as well. And, well, I'll be honest, that's probably the most intelligent thing Billy has ever said. The Billy and Mandy Memory Theory. According to DeviantArt user SharpCDSHRP, Miss Doolin is apparently Mandy as a ghost. And it's important to note that, as a viewer, you are not obligated to agree with or endorse the theory I am about to read to you guys. Feel free to dismiss it entirely if you choose. However, I decided to include it in this video because it has gained significant popularity online, and many people do find it intriguing. And from my perspective, it was an interesting read, and I thought it would be worth sharing with you guys. Remember the grim adventures of Billy and Mandy episode Who Killed Who? In the episode, Mandy retrieves some dice from a house. There is a scene where she meets a woman named Miss Doolin, voiced by Betty White. May she rest in peace, by the way. She is, of course, an elderly woman who converses with Mandy over what Billy had said to Mandy. At the end of the episode, we discover that Miss Doolin actually beat the Grim Reaper in a staring contest. After she and Mandy scared away Billy, Mandy exits the house. Mandy then looks back and discovers that Miss Doolin was really a ghost. In the final scene, we discover from a portrait that Grimm knew her for quite a long time and had finally come to reap her soul. What's more unsettling is the fact that Miss Doolin had known Grimm for so long, almost as if Grimm was her friend throughout her entire life, just like Mandy. The similarities are quite shocking, no? Just look at how Miss Doolin says she consistently beat death, and how Mandy constantly wins over Grimm in every episode, such as in arguments or situations. Also, if you look at the pendant that Miss Doolin is wearing, you could see that it is in fact a spider. Mandy always has an affinity towards spiders, and showed no fear towards Jeff the Spider. Furthermore, look at how Miss Doolin reacted when Mandy said that Billy didn't allow Mandy to play Who Killed Who, simply because Mandy was a girl. Miss Doolin reacted violently, but never really stated why. What if she is remembering those exact words when Billy told her all those years ago? It should also be noted that at the very beginning of the show, Mandy could have beaten Grimm in a staring contest, but in reality, she beat him in a limbo competition. Due to Miss Doolin's old age, she could have confused the staring contest that she had with Billy and the limbo contest that she had with Grimm. Mandy could be a very senile old woman who is remembering her childhood memories in the form of Miss Doolin, and she had begun to imagine what she experienced as a child. However, instead of normal people, she remembers monsters, as she is schizophrenic. Have you not noticed how the show progressively gets weirder and weirder? This could be due to the fact that she is slowly losing her mind, but yet in her imagination, everything that is going on is perfectly ordinary. For example, in Season 6, Episode 10, the plan to force obedience upon Mandy backfires, and Mandy seemingly takes control of the people around her by simply commanding them to do so. This points to Mandy being the controller of the world, just like a child playing pretend. It also shows what Mandy will inevitably become, an old woman whose soul shall be reaped by Grimm. In her last dying breath, she realizes that Grimm had finally won. It's pretty eerie, but like I said, you guys do not have to agree with this theory. I'm just including it in the video because I thought it was interesting, and maybe some of you guys would like it, maybe some of you guys won't like it. Billy and Mandy predicted Mario Odyssey. Deviant artist Eric G. 1996 explains that Billy and Mandy predicted the future Mario game, Mario Odyssey, which would release on October 27th, 2017. Wow, this is such a dumb meme. It's so stupid, but I kind of like it. Grimm took Eustace's soul after Eustace died via Stiffy. Look, I'm not gonna lie, this entry is probably the most obscure part about this entire iceberg. I tried looking far and wide across Google, trying to find out exactly what this entry even means. It got to a point where I even tried to contact the creator of the iceberg chart that originally featured this entry, but sadly, they never got back to me. They never get back to me. So finally, I cracked. I ended up checking out Mexican YouTuber Playstar's Billy and Mandy Iceberg to see if they covered the same chart with this entry, and thankfully they did. Now, I don't speak any Spanish at all. I took French in high school, and I tried learning Russian a few years ago. I don't know anything about Spanish, but luckily, there were English translation captions on or whatever. Now, the captions aren't perfect, but from what I can make out, this entry refers to a promo or commercial of sorts where Eustace from Courage the Cowardly Dog is seen passing away after watching some dirty, naughty stuff on his television, and, well, Grim from Billy and Mandy comes in and takes his soul. I tried to find this promo on my own after watching Playstar's video, but I still cannot find it, so maybe I'm not looking up the correct title for the promo, or maybe it's a fan video. I have no idea. So I had to download Playstar's video just for this section of the video, so credit to Playstar. Go check out their channel if you speak Spanish and enjoy videos that are similar to mine. But good God, this entry gave me a headache. Darkness scrubbed from Witch Hunt. In the episode Battle of the Bands, Grim joins a garage band called Purple Filth, which makes Billy jealous as he wanted to be a member of the band as well. So Billy and his dad form a father-son duo. During the Battle of the Bands, Purple Filth performed a song called Darkness, which is a real song by an artist called SPF 1000. The project was started by David Thomas Ivy. His music has been compared to groups like Nine Inch Nails, Rob Zombie, Marilyn Manson, and Ministry, as he incorporates a lot of spooky and industrial sounds. SPF 1000 put out an album called Witch Hunt, and the song Darkness is not a part of the original track list. In fact, it's a bonus track. However, the song does not exist on streaming platforms. SPF 1000's Witch Hunt is available to stream on Spotify and Apple Music, but the song Darkness is nowhere to be found besides YouTube. And this might be due to maybe a licensing deal with Cartoon Network. Maybe the network bought the rights to the song. Maybe since SPF 1000 isn't really around anymore, the song was just never put on streaming platforms. There are a multitude of factors, but what I will say is this. I forgot about this song, so hearing it for the first time in over a decade really took me back, and being a massive fan of all kinds of metal music, I knew I had to binge Witch Hunt, and let me tell you, it's a great record. So if you enjoyed the song Darkness as a kid when it premiered on Billy and Mandy, then you'll totally enjoy the entire Witch Hunt record by SPF 1000. The Kool-Aid Man.
Oh yeah! Oh no!
Bingo, bango, bongo, layer 5 is done. That was the entire iceberg. Yay.
What are you doing with my chocolate dipped pickles?
Well guys, that was the Billy and Mandy iceberg. Special shout out again to the creators of the iceberg charts that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, because their charts definitely aided in the creation of my video. And like I mentioned before, my band Water on Red's new album Disappointment is out right now, so be sure to check it out on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, etc. I'll throw all of the links in the bio below. If you guys did go on to enjoy this video or you learned something new, do me a favor and leave a like. Subscribe to the channel if you're brand new around here. Click the bell icon to be notified, and whenever I upload a brand new video, follow me on all of my social links and join my Discord server. Links are in the bio below. Have a great day, everyone, and remember to tell Cartoon Network to give Maxwell Adams some money so he can create that new Billy and Mandy movie.
Miles, the hardest thing about this job is you can't always save everybody.
Welcome to the
full story series where we take some of our older videos and we compile them together to give you almost a cinematic experience. All of the ideas and stuff that we have put into a ton of videos. And today we're going to be covering the Ultimate Spider-Man line, going from his original origins all the way to the death of the Ultimate Spider-Man. I hope you guys enjoy. There is an alternate universe, one that was quite popular at its inception, but it eventually waned from the favor of its readers. This is the Ultimate Universe. Many things are familiar here, while many things are also very contrasting. While there are many things that people liked about this world, in the end, it was destroyed in the Secret Wars, and some of the best parts were then merged with the original Marvel Universe. But that is at the end of the story, and I'm jumping ahead of myself, because I'm here to tell you the magnificent tale of Spider-Man, and we need to go back to the beginning, in a lab. You see, in this universe, the tale is a bit different at the start. Osborn Industries, the company that belonged to Norman Osborn, was conducting experiments, which led to experimenting on a spider, which was accidentally let free from its container. And this brings us to our young 15-year-old Peter Parker, a bookworm with his mind on other things, like his studies and girls, such as Mary Jane. But while his life as a punching bag always took a toll on him, there was someone who gave him hope and helped him through it. His Uncle Ben. You see, his parents both died when he was young, and they left him in the care of his Aunt May and Uncle Ben. And Ben, well, he looked after the boy like any father would. Peter was also close friends with the wealthiest kid at school, Harry Osborn, son of Norman Osborn. So, that night after dinner, Harry came by the Parker pad, as he called it, to learn about biology. And that's when Peter explained that his parents were supposedly killed in a plane crash, and that on the board in front of both of the boys was a formula that his father came up with before he died. The next day, the whole school went on a field trip to Osborn Industries, where the fateful act happened. The weird spider from the start of our tale crawled out and bit Peter Parker on the hand, and with that, he hit the ground right away, starting to feel weird. Now, this part of the story remains much of the same. A young boy begins to slowly discover that he has powers, everything from strength, speed, and agility. And while this is going on, Norman Osborn had Peter followed. He knew of the spider that bit Peter, and he wanted to know what was happening. Was the boy going to live, or was he going to die? As things progressed, both Peter and Osborn began to see the growth of his abilities. But the problem is that with the growth of Peter's abilities, also grew his ego. And eventually he grew cocky. You see, as one of the kids picked on him, he retaliated, and he actually injured one of those kids. The parents demanded that Uncle Ben and Aunt May pay the $2,500 hospital bill for their child, which drove Peter further into his own head. He had these abilities now. Why shouldn't he use them? And why can't he make money from them? He decided to enroll in wrestling matches to win a little money. But of course, he had to wear a mask, as they wouldn't let a 15-year-old kid enroll in these things. The story of Peter Parker kept progressing as he excelled at sports and continued to win these matches until eventually he made an actual Spider-Man suit. But back at Osborn Industries, Norman decided that if this kid can gain powers from his formula, why couldn't he? So he has an individual known as Dr. Octavius run various tests on Peter's blood, and they figured out the perfect formula that made Peter into a superpowered individual. Except when they tried to test it on Norman Osborn, Dr. Octavius changed something in the formula. Something that he wanted to do, something that he wanted to alter. And it went wrong, and the entire lab was destroyed, and Norman Osborn went missing. Back with Peter, he continued to win at each and every match as Spider-Man. And as it was all working out, Peter was walking home one night when a thug ran up on him after robbing a deli. That was it. The moment that Peter could alter his entire history. This universe could go a completely different path. So what did the Peter Parker of the Ultimate Universe do? He let the robber go. It's not his problem, he told the deli owner. After that, Uncle Ben and Aunt May confronted him at the door to ask about his grades and ask why he was slipping. An argument ensued, and Peter ran off into the night. He ended up at a party with girls coming on to him, and Mary Jane upset that she saw it. She did have feelings for Peter, though she didn't really know how to tell him, and seeing him with that other girl, well, she left the party. Peter chased after her, but as he got to the door, Uncle Ben was standing there, because his 15-year-old nephew was now at a party, and he was there to bring him home. He took him outside to ask him why he was doing this. He's such a smart kid. Why waste away his potential on things like these parties? He told Peter various things about his father, things such as responsibility and what this means. He told Peter that his father believed that he was destined for great things, and with all of the great things that he was destined for, great responsibility would come. But that angered Peter more, as he wanted to know if his father knew so much, why did he leave? And he ran off into the night, a confused kid. And by the time he got home, it was too late. You see, Uncle Ben and Aunt May, they were playing cards when they heard a noise in the back of the house. Ben decided that he would go see what it was, and when he got there, he found a man with a gun pointed at him. The robber demanded money, and Ben laughed, telling him that the robber had more money than any of them. And that was it. A gunshot, and Uncle Ben was gone. But Peter wasn't about to lie around while the police failed to find the murderer. and he ran out of the house, changing into his costume. Many of you know where this story goes next, but Peter tracked the murderer down into a warehouse, and the police cornered him. He crawled in, and after pinning the man down, he realized that it was the same man, the one that he failed to stop after the deli robbery. If he had stood up and done the right thing at that moment, this never would have happened. So he strung the robber up, refusing to kill him. Peter thought back to the full conversation that Uncle Ben had with him about his father, and he remembered the words exactly. Great things are going to happen in your life, Peter. Great things. And with that will come great responsibility. He looked at his mask with tears in his eyes, telling himself, I do now. He went off to become the hero that he was meant to be, saving kids from a burning building, beating up robbers and thugs, and stopping the crime of the city. And when he got home, he saw Mary Jane. She saw him and told him that Aunt May was staying at her house with her parents. He tried to talk to her, but he broke down crying, and she held him while he cried it out. But how was the rest of the city taking this turn of events? Well, J. Jonah Jameson wasn't exactly taking it lightly, because he saw a guy running around in his underwear and assumed that he had to be a menace. So he wants as much information as he can get on this Spider-Man. While this is happening, Spider-Man is off inventing some new technology to go with his whole Spider-Man image. Basically, he created some web shooters using his father's formula for a molecular adhesive. It's strong, it's sticky, and he can shoot it out of his wrist thanks to some web shooters. The next day at school, Harry finally returned to school after losing his father in a freak lab accident, and as Peter is checking in on him, his new spider sense begins to go off. And following that, there's a loud boom! Fire and smoke begin to spew out of the school as Peter runs through the hallways trying to figure out what's going on. And it's Harry who seems to know as he's shouting, "Help me! He's here!" Using that as his entrance, Spider-Man arrives and he bolts into the building to see what exactly is happening. And with the sprinklers above raining on his head, Spider-Man calls out to whoever did this, and a very large man in a torn cloak stands in front of him. As a hall monitor, I'm going to have to ask you for your hall pass. And the man's eyes glow. He begins to hurl fireballs at Spider-Man. He bounces off of the walls, alerting our villain to the fact that this is a fire hazard, and he throws the mysterious villain into the lockers. The villain gets up and begins to swing, continuing his silence as Spider-Man continues his jokes, until eventually the villain slams Spider-Man into a wall, launching him out of the school. He continues to squeeze Spider-Man, keeping him from breathing, and then he lands in a park and he jumps again. As they're leaping through the air, his cloak begins to come off and Spider-Man sees a big green goblin face, which growls the word, Parker. Spider-Man looks at him. Who are you? And instead of responding, he throws Spider-Man down into the streets below. He begins to panic. How could I survive this? Is this the end already? Until it dawns on him. His webbing! He thwips it towards one building and then another building, begging for this to work. And then like a giant trampoline, it propels him back into the sky. He cheers out, excited that it actually worked, and then he thinks to himself, I wonder if my other idea will work. And he thwips onto a nearby building, swinging into action and landing square into the goblin's back. As he gets a couple of shots in, the goblin reaches up, grabbing his head, and he throws him back into the ground. He throws out two more thwips, but the goblin dodges, and it attaches to the nearby helicopter. While they both stand there staring at each other, another problem has presented itself as the goblin now sees the looky-loos who have joined the fight, and he begins to sprint off towards them. Spider-Man tries to attach his webbing to the goblin, but he has too much sheer strength, and he pulls Spider-Man right off of the wall. He then throws his cloak into the air with Spider-Man still attached, and he leaps up to the level of the helicopters. His hands begin to burn brightly as he prepares to throw more fireballs at them. And as Spider-Man gets between the goblin and the helicopters, he shouts, "Stand down! I won't let you hurt these people!" But that's the moment that the officers in the helicopter take their shots, peppering the goblin's chest with bullets. Spider-Man calls out to them to stop shooting as the goblin holds his chest, all bloodied, and he looks at Spider-Man. Parker! He shouts as he leaps at him, but Spider-Man jumps over his head, dodging him, allowing the goblin to fall into the bay, where he falls deeper and deeper into the water. He turns to the police, telling them that they have to save the guy if they can, but instead the police open fire on Spider-Man. He dodges and he rolls out of the way, getting out of sight, before changing back into Peter and going back to the school. He stumbles out of the school, claiming that he was under a chalkboard, and Mary Jane rushes over, giving him a huge hug. Harry decides to tell everyone who that was at that very moment, and he informs the group that it was his father. Norman Osborn did not die in the lab. He changed into that thing, and now he's after Harry to kill him. As the police bring Harry in for questioning, Peter can't help but wonder what's to come next. Our story begins as a man stands over a group of security guards, telling them that he's pretty sure he didn't get paid enough to take another hit, so they should probably just give him the money. Panicking, one of the guards tells him, "Just take the money, take whatever you want." And our mysterious man tells him, "No, I want you to crawl and bring it to me." And then a voice tells him, You're so... Peter swings by punching the man, asking, who are you supposed to be? The vibrator? The man lifts his arms up to try and shock Peter, but as he does, Peter whips out his web onto the man's device and he ends up shocking him. The security guards get up and Peter asks if they're okay. They might want to call but one of the guards stops him, assuming he's also a criminal. Just take the money! Confused, Peter tells them, what? No, just call the cops, will you? The next day at school, Peter overhears some of the students talking about Spider-Man showing up in Brooklyn. One of them mentions that the paper was offering money for pictures of Spider-Man, which gives Peter an idea. So after school, he heads home and sets his camera up to begin taking photos. And as he does, he asks himself if he's really doing this. He really needs money, but this is a bit much. The next day, J. Jonah Jameson is shouting to everyone that he doesn't care what they want, he wants pictures of Spider-Man. And that's when he meets Peter Parker holding out a picture of Spider-Man. Everyone stops to look and Jonah takes the stack, asking, where in good God's green earth did you get these? Peter tells him, I called in a little while ago about them. I got them when Spider-Man came to my school. Jonah looks at them and asks, did you take these pictures? And Peter tells him, yeah. So he starts sifting through all the photos, telling him, each one of these is crap. But from the bunch, there is one that he pulls out. Jonah eyeballs Peter up and down and he says, how old are you? I'm 16, sort of. And Jonah tells him, fine, I'll give you 50 for it. But before Peter can ask anything, Betty Brant begins to scream at her computer, shouting that she will light this whole place on fire. Jonah asks her what's wrong, and Betty tells him that she's an associate book editor, not a web designer, and she can't get this thing to work. It constantly freezes. Peter looks down at the screen and tells them that he sees the problem, and with a few clicks, he clears out the script error. Jonah begins signing over the payment of the pictures and asks Peter again, how old are you? You go to school or something? You need a job? After accepting the job, Peter heads home for the night, and as he sleeps, he begins to have the same nightmare that's been haunting him ever since Uncle Ben's death. He wakes up screaming that he couldn't stop it. He just couldn't stop it. So the next day, he decides he's going to go look up information on that robber. And as he enters in the information, two links pop up, one with an image. The image shows the man with other thugs. And through a link of all of the thugs, Peter realizes that the man at the top of the list is Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin. After work, Peter spies on the three thugs that he saw in the photo with Uncle Ben's killer. As the men head into their hideout, Peter kicks the men inside, telling everyone that he's here to sign up for the wet t-shirt contest. Dan goes to grab his gun, but Peter whips his webs out, knocking the gun out of his hand. The bigger man, Ox, steps up, and Peter punches him with all he's got, and quickly realizes punching Ox may not have been the best idea. He swings, knocking Peter into Dan, and then Montana cracks her whip, wrapping it around Peter's neck. She tells everyone that this is just a Fed trick. They need to throw this kid out and bolt the doors. Ox tells him that he's just being paranoid, but as Ox tries to swing again, Peter jumps up onto the wall. As he lands, he pulls on Montana's whip, and he throws him into Ox. He then webs up the two of them and throws Dan into the group. Peter looks at them and tells them, I know you guys work for the Kingpin. I would like to know where he's at. So they go ahead and spill the beans, and they tell him that Kingpin is holding a fundraiser at his office on Friday. A real MVP, VIP sort of thing, real legit. Peter then realizes that they're kind of spilling the beans on a lot of information and asks, why are you telling me all of this? The man says he works for Kingpin. Doesn't mean he has to like him. Seconds later, the front door is kicked in by two FBI agents bursting in, telling everyone to freeze. The woman stops for a moment and then says, it's him! It's Spider-Man! Peter tells them that it's really not what it looks like, and the agents tell him to put his hands in the air. Thinking quickly, he tells them, look at the time! I've really got to get going, and he jumps over the agents and swings away. The next day, Peter stops by the newsstand to read the headline, Spider-Man, Mob Menace. Later that night, as Peter heads over to the big VIP MVP thing that Kingpin's doing, he gets to the tower and he watches as Kingpin gives his speech. Peter tells himself that he's going to find a way to expose Kingpin, all of the drugs, thievery, and murder. All he does is write a check, and suddenly he's a good guy? Ironic, really. People think that Kingpin is a good guy and Spider-Man is the bad guy. As Peter climbs up through the window, he begins to search through Kingpin's office, and then he suddenly notices a lens in the distance. Peter tells him that he's starting to get a funny feeling when things start to feel like they're about to go wrong again, almost like a spider sense kind of thing. And suddenly Kingpin appears, reaching out, grabbing him. He asks if there's anything that he can do for him, and Peter spins around punching him, realizing that he's got to stop punching giant guys. Kingpin grabs a hold of his arm, asking who sent him, and through the pain of having his arm crushed, Peter tells him, Carson Daly! He kicks himself away, and Kingpin tells Electro to take care of this. He needs to get back down to his guests. Out of the group of men behind Peter, one man's eyes begin to glow, and electricity begins to spark around him. Electro fires the bolt of electricity, zapping away at Peter. Kingpin tells Electro that this is his office, you know. And after a few more blasts, Electro finally hits him. He tells him that he's sorry about the room, but this really isn't an exact science or anything. And Kingpin tells him to just take off the mask. One of the men pulls Peter's mask off to see that he's a kid. He then tells the men to call for Mr. Big. His presence is required. And Electro asks, what are we gonna do about the kid? Toss him out the same way that he came in. and also find this Carson Daly person and destroy him. As Peter's body is thrown out the window, he slowly begins to wake up and tries to catch himself along the building. But as he does, he grabs onto a window by the ballroom and everyone watches as he slides down and falls off. A little while later, Peter heads home telling himself that he messed up bad. He got electrocuted, had his web shooters crushed, and his mask ripped off and then thrown out a skyscraper. Maybe he shouldn't have gone down there. The next day at Kingpin's tower, Kingpin shows Mr. Big Peter's mask, telling him, "I had a visitor last night. Come into the office." He came into the office and started a fight, almost ruining my dinner party. Mr. Big laughs, stating, "He sounds like das Gavoots, Martha Stewart." The entire room goes silent, and Mr. Big says, "It's starting to sound like you have elevated yourself above all of us here common thugs, Mr. Kingpin. Rumor has it that you can't even get your hands dirty anymore." And Kingpin decides to respond to that. Finally, Mr. Big takes a stand, and then he looks at Ox and Montana, telling them, "It's time to pick a side." Ox and Montana grab a hold of Mr. Big's arms, telling him, "You have to understand." Kingpin takes off Mr. Big's hat and then slides Peter's mask onto him and begins to wrap his hands around his head. Kingpin's hands begin to come together and his grip begins to get tighter, and Mr. Big begins to scream out in pain until finally he stops screaming. The next morning, Peter watches the news as reports of the body of Mr. Big floating down the river wearing the mask of Peter are being aired. He tells himself being demasked isn't the worst thing to happen to a superhero. This right here is the worst thing that can happen to a superhero. The next day in class, the teacher begins to review what type of man Richard Nixon was when he was president and why he had everything recorded. The class begins to shout out answers, and one of them says that he was paranoid, to which the teacher tells him that that is correct. The teacher goes on asking, why would a paranoid man record all of the questionable dialogue? And Peter remembers back to when he saw the security footage in Kingpin's office, and he says, because he thought he was untouchable. After class, Peter begins searching online for security systems and finds the company name rather quickly, so he has an idea. And he emails the company stating that he's interested in getting security for his business, and he would like information on some of the systems that they use for their larger businesses. After heading home for that day, he checks his computer to find the security company emailed him back and told him the exact model that all of the large companies use, as well as a link to the technical pages for how they work. After watching everything that they've given him, he realizes that they record everything on DVDs, and he needs to get those DVDs. Because not only will they have a video of him being demasked, but it also will allow him to find out what the Kingpin has been doing. Later that night, Peter sets out and sneaks into Kingpin's tower, and once he gets inside, he sneaks up on the security guard who's monitoring the security system, knocking him out. Meanwhile, back upstairs, Kingpin talks with Electro and his men regarding the fact that they need to find that Spider-Man kid. Downstairs, Peter is fighting off the second security guard, and the guard fires a few shots hitting the building's electrical panels. Suddenly, the whole building loses power. Now, with everyone knowing that someone is here, Peter runs over to the security server and rips the door off of the hinges. He cycles through a few discs and takes the ones with the date of him being there and a few of the extra ones. He then packs up and gets a funny feeling, and a bolt of electricity shoots by. He barely dodges the strike, and then a whip lashes out, wrapping around his neck. As Peter looks back, he sees Electro, and Electro tells him, "Don't worry, this will only hurt a lot." Peter manages to break free from the whip and begins fighting everyone and dodging their attacks. Dan starts shooting, but Peter asks him, "How many times do I have to tell you? No guns!" And he webs up his hands again. Before jumping away, Ox grabs a hold of Peter's leg and begins slamming him back and forth into the computers. Peter lays on the ground. Ox grabs him by the neck and tells him, "We should go on and bring you to the Kingpin." But as everyone looks at Peter, he shouts, "Acting! Ta-da!" And he kicks Montana and Electro away. Electro fires the bolt, but Peter dodges out of the way of that one, and the bolt ends up hitting Ox. Montana, in response to that, cracks her whip as Electro is apologizing. And as the end of the whip is getting closer, Peter grabs it and pulls it to bring Montana to him and then kicks him back down. With Ox and Montana down, Electro begins firing away, trying to hit Peter, so he jumps down, grabbing him by the wrist, telling him, "I'm kind of curious as to how you got your powers. Are you a mutant?" And Electro responds with, "Are you?" Peter tells him that he asked first, so Electro tells him he's not a mutant. "But why would you care anyway?" Peter responds with, "I'm a huge science geek, so I'm kind of sort of into this stuff. I will say this, after they take care of you, we're going to be going after your friends and your family. They're all going to be fried." And Peter tells him, "If that's the case, then you can't be mad about me doing this." He kicks a water pipe and throws Electro into the pouring water. The water electrocutes him, and soon he begins to fall over. Looking down at everyone, Peter hears Ox trying to wake up. So he jumps down on him and tells him that if he wants to do the right thing, march that incredibly stupid butt over to the comp and confess what they did. And then he begins to run towards the exit, thinking to himself, he did it. He really did it. How cool is he? But before he can open the door, Kingpin's voice tells him, "There is no way that you're going to leave here alive. So, Who are you working for? Peter stops and tells him, I had something prepared for the next time we ever met, so okay, here it goes. You're so fat that when you cut yourself shaving, marshmallow fluff comes out. Kingpin stares at him, and Peter goes on. You're so fat that your high school yearbook photo was taken from a helicopter. Kingpin starts to grind his teeth, and Peter goes on to say another. But Kingpin begins yelling and charges after him. Peter jumps, telling him, hold on, I got one more. And just as the Kingpin reaches him, he dodges the rest of his attacks. For such an evil, arrogant guy, you think you can just walk all over everyone. Kingpin begins to punch away again, and as he does, Peter webs his arms to the wall, telling him that he really didn't come here for a fight. So he shouts, you're a dead man! And then Peter webs his face. As everything goes dark, Kingpin rips himself from the wall and tears away at the webbing on his face to find nothing. The next day at the Daily Bugle, writer Ben Urich sits at his desk watching a video of the murder of Mr. Big. He then reads a note left to him that enclosed all sorts of goodies on Kingpin. P.S. Not for the squeamish. Elsewhere, Kingpin begins to read the headline, American Kingpin of Crime Caught on Tape, whereabouts unknown. His lawyer tells him not to worry, he'll get him out of this. But really, someone was murdered and it was caught on tape. Kingpin looks at him and he walks away. During all of this, Peter Parker and Mary Jane have been having an interesting relationship. He wants to go out with her, she seems to like him, but she's also seeing a bunch of other people. It's kind of confusing, but it's typical high school drama. But the next day after all of those events happen, after school, Peter sits nervously with Mary Jane sitting on his bed and tells her, so yeah, there's something I wanted to tell you. She stares at him, telling him okay. And he tells her, really, you can't tell anyone, like ever. And she tells him okay. And Peter tells her, you gotta promise. So she says she promises. And after a few awkward moments of silence, he tells her, I'm Spider-Man. She looks at him and asks, what did you say? Like the superhero Spider-Man? He tells her yes, and she bursts out laughing, so much so that she falls off the bed. She tells him to shut up. He's being such a goofball right now. And he says that he knew that he would have to do this. And he begins jumping from wall to wall. She watches and stares, and Peter asks if she's going to be okay, and then she begins to scream. Peter tells her to be quiet. Aunt May is home, so you gotta. But then May's voice shouts, what's going on up there? Better not be any hanky-panky. After finally controlling herself, Mary Jane asks, how did it happen? And Peter explains that it happened when he went to Harry's dad's work and the spider bit him. That's when she realizes that the spider almost bit her, and she could have been Spider-Man too. And then the next part of the conversation goes on to what is he gonna do because he's Spider-Man, and can she see the costume? Over at the medical facility, two doctors begin to review their newest patient. They begin to try and decide whose turn it is to clean out Dr. Octopus's bedpan, when the man slowly begins to wake up. Otto Octavius asks, why would you call me that? My name is Otto. And a metal arm begins to rise as he shouts, asking, why did you call me that? Meanwhile, over at Midtown High, Peter and the rest of his classmates head over to the school pep rally. Kong mentions that he's starting to think that their new assignment of making a report on which superhero they would like to be seems pretty dumb. And everyone tells him that maybe it's him who's dumb. But Kong says that he's not so sure. All of these superheroes and mutants popping up. Maybe it's a sign. Maybe they should be watching out. Peter asks, what do you mean by watch out? And Kong says that he's not sure. He just feels like there's gonna be some real trouble real soon. A voice then tells them that it's a meteor, and everyone looks over to see a blonde girl standing along the wall. She says that it's kind of like when the meteor wiped out the dinosaurs, except for them, they know it's coming. She goes on telling everyone that things will be fine, because in a sense, they all have superpowers in their own way, even if they're not superpowered or mutants. Kong asks, who are you? And the girl tells him, Gwen Stacy. And it's her first day here. Back over at the medical facility, Otto Octavius begins to wake up, and Hank Pym sits on his bed telling him that it's good that he's awake, but it's time that they talked. He explains that there was an accident in Osborne Industries that left him in a coma for the last 3 months. Otto says that he doesn't really remember what happened, and as he tries to process it, he begins to feel the metal arms. He asks what have they done to him, and Hank goes on stating that during that accident, he suffered damage to his face and neck areas. But more notably, it seems that he was fused with his own mechanical harness. Though they're not sure as to how, the arms are locked into his central nervous system, and they react and function like normal arms. Otto Octavius leans up and shouts at them to take off his bandages, and as they slowly comes off, he sees the arms. Hank tells them that it could be a breakthrough with exciting possibilities. Perhaps they could work together. And Otto says that they found him like this. They could have taken this off of him, but they chose not to? Who do they think they are? Hank says that they can't say, but they are the United States government, and they can't really tell him where he is. The metal arms begin flailing, and one shoots through the chest of one of the other doctors. Otto then looks back over to Hank, demanding to know where he is. The next day at school, Kong comes to a conclusion that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Flash Thompson tells him that he's absolutely crazy, like completely crazy. But Kong says that it makes sense. That day in the field trip, Peter Parker got bitten by a spider, so he's Spider-Man. Just think about it. He broke a desk. He's super good at basketball now. That means that he's Spider-Man. Flash begins to laugh, and Kong tells him, watch. He's gonna go kick Peter, and when he dodges it, That'll show everyone. Over at his locker, Peter's spider sense begins to go off, but instead of dodging it, he flat out takes the hit. In pain, Peter looks back asking, why would you do something like that? Through the crowd of students, a voice then asks what's their problem, and Gwen walks up to Kong, telling him that if he ever does that again, then everyone notices that Gwen's holding a knife. A teacher comes by asking what's going on, and as he gets through, Gwen drops the knife, obviously, because she doesn't want to get caught with it. The teacher then grabs Gwen by the arm and tells her that it's a great way to start her second day of school. Later, after school in the city, a man begins to run off after grabbing a woman's purse. The man tells everyone to watch it as he runs, and then suddenly, the purse is webbed out of his hand. Peter then jumps in, kicking the man, stating that feels better. He was looking for a big bald guy to knock out. The man tries to fight back, but Peter knocks him in the head and webs him to the ground. He then hops over, telling the woman that he brought back her purse. It was his pleasure to help. But everyone, including the woman who was robbed, just stare at him. She grabs the purse and begins to run off, and Peter begins to say to everyone openly, why can't a guy in his underwear just go around the city helping people without them thinking that he's crazy or something? Back as Peter looks around, he notices that he's in front of the Daily Bugle. J. Jonah Jameson is watching him. He asks if he's the guy who's been printing all of that garbage about him, just to sell papers, because if so, he has one thing to say to him. He jumps up shouting, love it, it's hysterical, and he leaves. J. Jonah Jameson looks around and says that he thought Spider-Man was going to hit him. Maybe they should get back inside where it's safe. But as Jonah begins to move, he falls flat on his face with webbing covering his feet. Once inside, writer Ben Ulrich says that he got a lead on a recent murder on a woman in her home. The previous owner of the home was Dr. Otto Octavius. He explains that Otto was one of the chief scientists at Osborne Industries, one of the individuals that was thought dead during the explosion where Norman Osborn went missing. But he was in fact not dead. Sources state that Otto was taken to a government hospital somewhere in South Jersey, where he managed to escape. It's also said that Otto was being observed because of complications in his condition brought on by the explosion. J. Jonah Jameson asks, what does he mean by complications? And Ben tells him that he's unsure, but after what happened with Norman Osborn turning into the Goblin, it's safe to say that something fishy is going on. Jonah tells him it's okay, let's just assume that Otto killed the woman in her home. So the next question is, why? Ben says that no one would really know. Maybe he didn't expect her there when he went back to his old home, or maybe something horrible happened to him and he's gone crazy. Then outside of the office, Peter sits listening as Jonah tells Ben to go on and see what the good doctor has to say. Later that night, Otto Octavius sits in an office talking to himself. He knows what happened. It's all his fault. He paid him to give him his secrets from Norman, and when he ran out of uses for him, he tried to get rid of him. The only problem is, Otto Octavius doesn't know who he is. Otto shouts that he should have made sure that he was dead because now he's going to make him pay for what he has done to him. The next day, Peter heads over to work, but while on his way there, he catches the TV showing off Kraven the Hunter. Kraven tells everyone that he and his TV show are coming from Australia all the way over to America to film his show. He has a big surprise for everyone, but he isn't going to be making the announcement of what it is until he reaches the States. A little while later, Peter overhears some of the workers talking about a breaking story about some man with mechanical arms climbing hammer towers and trying to break in. Peter begins to think about it for a moment, and then he remembers back to when he was at Norman Osborn's facility and he met Otto Octavius, an individual who used a device that had mechanical arms attached to it. After getting off of work, Peter suits up and heads over to Hammer Towers to find out what's going on, and he finds Justin Hammer speaking with two SHIELD agents. They ask Justin Hammer if he knows who Dr. Otto Octavius is, and Justin tells them no. But the agents look at him and Justin says that he just met him. Agent Carter then says that Colonel Fury would need a better answer than that. Carter then goes on to explain how Otto was fused with the machine that gave him mechanical arms, but the explosion at Norman's plant left him with amnesia, and he seems to have come here for something. After they talk for a little while, Justin notices something in the window and he sees Spider-Man's head. The two agents spin around firing their blasters, barely missing Spider-Man, and Spider-Man figures that it might be as good a time as any to leave. The next morning, Kraven the Hunter's plane touches down in New York while his fans and reporters gather around to find out what his big announcement is. One reporter runs up telling him the world wants to know what he's going to be hunting in New York of all places that he couldn't be hunting anywhere else. Kraven smiles, stating, I'm here to hunt a very special kind of species. I'm here to hunt the one that they call Spider-Man. The reporter then asks, what's he going to do when he finds Spider-Man? And Kraven tells him, I'm going to kill him with my bare hands. While Kraven makes his announcement, Peter watches back home, trying to figure out what he's going to do now. He's at Kraven the Hunter, a guy who's known for hunting down things and killing them chasing him. A week later, he heads to school and begins his social studies class when Gwen Stacy is let back into the classroom. She tells everyone that she's sorry for pulling a knife and doesn't want anyone to think of her as a crazy girl. But one thing that she does want to say is that she doesn't like bullies. Gwen takes her seat and the teacher says that they're going to the school school assembly in about 10 minutes. But if they have any questions regarding their superhero project, now is the time to ask. One of the girls says that she feels like the assignment is a bad idea. This is supposed to be a social studies class, not a superhero dress-up class. Not long ago, the school was attacked by a mutant. Now they're supposed to dress up as one? The teacher says that the assignment is supposed to help them study the environment from a different perspective. And the girl responds with, it doesn't matter. She talked to her mother and she will be bringing it up in the next PTA meeting because mutant things shouldn't even be in a classroom. The teacher turns around asking if anyone else feels the same way, and Gwen smiles and raises her hand. Meanwhile, over in New York City, Justin Hammer heads out of his press conference while speaking with one of the scientists from his New Jersey facility. Justin tells him that they're going to need some major firepower. He needs to back up right away. The scientist states that their experiments are going smoothly and on track, but currently their subject, Flint Marco, is still adjusting to the experiments. A screen then changes to a man squirming in sand and screaming. Justin asks what the hell was that, and the scientist says that's Flint and the Sandman Project. The scientist then goes on to ask why he doesn't just accept the assistance of S.H.I.E.L.D., and Justin tells him that he will not, mainly because they're going to look around his facilities and they will find that he's in violation of the superhero test ban. That and how Otto Octavius was an industrial spy for him and that was sent over to Osborn Industries and now believes that this explosion was somehow Justin Hammer's fault. A short while later, Justin arrives at the conference where he's about to announce the Energy Dome Project, a power plant offering an abundance of affordable and alternative energy sources. As he takes the stage, he explains that they are currently unveiling a groundbreaking energy technology with a hybrid of solar, electric, and nuclear energies. But as the announcement goes on, the video feed from the dome shows the scientists being attacked by Otto Octavius. Back at the school, the students all gather around for the assembly where the principal announces that they've all been brought here today to be informed that the school has been chosen to be the filming site for the Kraven the Hunter show. But as he goes on explaining the do's and the don'ts, he's told that there has been some trouble in the city, and the school is currently being placed under a lockdown. While the students all begin to panic, Mary Jane looks at Peter and tells him to go. Over at the dome, the police begin to arrive by helicopter, but one of the pilots tells the other that he may have a stowaway. The second pilot asks, what does he mean? And they both realize that hanging from a web, Spider-Man says that this idea was so much better in theory. One of the officers attempts to shoot Spider-Man and he tells them to please stop, I'm trying to help. Then he swings, dodging the gunfire, and as he releases and crashes into the facility, he gets up yelling, ta-da! And then he sees Otto Octavius standing there with a dead scientist. After seeing the destruction caused by Otto Octavius, Peter goes to check on the surviving scientists that are crawling out of the debris. He tells the man to hang on, and then his spider sense begins to go off. Metal arms begin to shoot past Peter, hitting him in the head and knocking him down. Otto picks up Peter's body, asking, what is this ridiculousness? Peter mumbles out some words, and Otto leans in, asking, what? And Peter tells him, you're one to talk, and he claps his hands on the side of Otto's head. As Doc Ock stumbles backwards, Peter kicks free by kicking him in the head and then knocking away his glasses. Otto goes to cover his eyes, and Peter tells him that that's the least of his problems. First of all, why the green jumpsuit? Peter webs up the metal arms, and as they flail around, the web stretches and then it snaps. And Peter realizes that this could be a problem. The arms begin whipping around, and Peter blocks and dodges them. And then one of them shoots up, hitting him in the head. Doc Ock then picks up Peter's body and tries to hit him. But while Peter tries to defend himself, one of the arms begins to change, and it shocks Peter. His body is flung from the facility to the outside, where it bounces onto the pier. He then starts to wake back up and realizes that he can hear voices. And then his spider sense goes off again. He looks back to see the police SWAT team surrounding him, all pointing their guns at him. One of the officers shouts for him not to move, or they'll blow off his mutant freak head. The officers then get down and begin to place Spider-Man in handcuffs, but Agent Carter steps up, stating that she'll take it from here. The officers all argue that this is their bust, but while Agent Carter and the officer go on, Peter points, asking if Charlton Heston is over there. And of course everyone looks. He jumps up from the grips of the S.H.I.E.L.D. officers and he begins to web up everyone before jumping off of the pier and into the water. Agent Carter shouts for everyone to go after him, but as the agents jump in after Peter, all they find is his torn suit. A little while later, he heads home to watch the news, and on it, Justin Hammer states that he's not sure who that Spider-Man guy was, but they all have their concerns if he's the one who attacked. Peter shouts, come on! And Mary Jane tells him to just ignore it. He says that he's just trying to help people, but instead he keeps getting his butt kicked every time he goes out. Mary Jane suggests that maybe he should learn some kung fu or something, but really she needs to get going anyway. He can work on that later. She then gives him a kiss and says that she'll be by tomorrow after school so they can patch up the costume. Once Mary Jane leaves, Peter sits back down to watch the news, and all of the reporters begin to say how hopefully Kraven will be around to teach that weasel Spider-Man a real lesson. But as Peter sits back down trying to figure out what his next move is, he hears Aunt May's voice asking if he's home. He begins to panic as he's still in half of his Spider-Man costume, and he jumps out of the basement and crawls up to the bathroom. As he stumbles through the window, May hears the thump from upstairs and asks what's going on. Peter says that he's having a stomach problems, but he'll be fine. She tells him okay, well, she brought him dinner just in case he needs anything. And the next day at school, the camera crews begin to set up their scene with Craven when one of the workers explains to everyone that they need to try and act natural when Craven comes in. All of the students begin to gather around, and Gwen sees Peter and asks what happened. Did those jerks beat him up again? Peter tells her no, he just fell is all. And Mary Jane says, yeah, down the stairs. But as Mary Jane gives Peter a glaring look, Gwen checks on his face, and Craven walks in. He heads over to the hole that was created in the fight between Spider-Man and Goblin, and he begins to sniff. Everyone watches as he examines the hole, and then he turns back. Peter looks as Craven begins to sniff through the crowds, and then he shoots a look right towards Peter Parker. And he keeps moving. Gwen asks if it's just her, or does that guy vaguely smell like kitty litter? Craven stops and glares at her. And Gwen waves back. Later, reports start to swarm around that Justin Hammer is trying to get a statement about what happened at the Dome. Justin rushes by to get away, and as he heads up the elevator, he tells his assistant Judith that the whole thing is going rather poorly. But as the elevator opens, Spider-Man's voice asks him, "How do you think I feel?" Spider-Man is sitting at Justin Hammer's desk reading his address book, stating, "You stink, and on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the stinkiest, you're totally like a 14. One of Justin's bodyguards reaches for his gun, but Peter webs up his arm, and then he webs up the second bodyguard. As Judith pulls out her phone, he webs her up too. And after seeing that it was just a phone, he tells her, "My bad." Justin tells Spider-Man that he has some nerve, so he hops off the desk, stating, "You've got some real nerd. In fact, I was trying to help the other day. I already have a bad enough rep with the public. I just wanted to stop by and state that whatever you and Doc Ock have going on, you can have at it, because I'm going home." Justin Hammer stops for a second and then asks, "How much?" Peter responds quickly with, "What do you mean?" And Justin tells him, "The doctor. How much would it take for you to take care of him?" "How about 50,000? Peter responds rather angrily, "First you slam me in the press, and now you're offering me money for something that I was going to do for free before I got slammed in the press?" Spider-Man leaps out the window stating, "You're what people refer to as a piece of work," and he leaves. Justin says that it was worth a shot, and then Judas says that there's a call for him. It's the doctor from the Jersey facility. The screen comes on with the doctor, and he doesn't say anything. Justin asks if he can hear them, and then blood begins to drip from his lip, and his body is thrown to the side. Doc Ock, Otto Octavius, appears on the screen, and Justin asks what is he doing. Otto tells him, "This is something of a payback for making me like this." Justin tells him, "If you have any issues with me, we need to talk face to face." And Doc Ock says, "That's true. Come meet me at this facility." A short while later, Justin heads out and notices that everyone in their cars is honking at him. Judith asks what they're honking for, and it's because Peter is riding atop of the limo. As Justin pulls up on his facility, he starts to see the news trucks all gathering around, and then he sees him, Doc Ock. Otto tells Justin to come out and admit his sins. The press would like to hear all about the things that are going on here. And then one of his metal arms begins to tap on the limo window. The driver says that he can get them out of here if they want to turn around. And Judith shouts for him to just do it then. So the driver floors it into reverse. As the limo begins to back out, a metal arm smashes through the window, and others begin to pick up the limo. Otto Octavius shouts that he will not deny him again. And then he begins to shake the limo as his eyes are suddenly webbed up. Spider-Man says that he can't watch this anymore, and he swings in, kicking Doc Ock. He stares at the webbed up arms, and then one of them points towards him and switches to a gun. The arm begins to blindly fire at him and shoots towards the crowds. Doc Ock rips the webbing off of his face, and he asks Spider-Man, "Why does he keep showing up? Who are you? Another freak that Justin created?" As Peter hangs onto one of the metal arms, he tells him, "No, I'm a genetic freak all on my own, thank you. You should rent yourself out as a ride for children." And then Spider-Man is smacked into the side of a news van. Doc Ock keeps whipping around, hitting Spider-Man as the reporters all start to film the fight. Through the dodging, Doc Ock quickly manages to grab a hold of him, and then another arm reaches out and begins to shock him. But as it gets close, Peter webs it up, sending the shock back towards Doc Ock. He's then flung from the grip, and Doc Ock makes his way towards the limo, calling out Justin. As he's getting ready to grab him, a web is shot, hitting Doc Ock's pants, and then he pulls him down. Doc Ock quickly pulls his pants back up, but Peter jumps in, punching him, stating, "I didn't take you for the tidy whities kind of guy." He then kicks Doc Ock and jumps onto him, slamming him into the ground. He webs up his face, and he grabs and rips off one of the metal arms. As the camera lights all focus on Spider-Man, he sits down exhausted, and then another light shines as Craven steps out. Peter simply responds with, "Come on, I have a curfew." Craven shouts, "It is time to do battle." And Spider-Man asks him, "How about we go help the lady in the crushed limo over there?" Spider-Man jumps onto the limo and asks if everything's okay, and Judith says that Justin is dead from a heart attack. Spider-Man looks towards Craven and says that he's going to rip the door off, so could he grab the girl or... And Craven shouts, "We will do battle!" So Spider-Man tells him, "No, we won't." Craven shows his teeth, and Spider-Man asks, "You're kidding, right?" But as Spider-Man asks that, Craven lunges forward, so Spider-Man steps out of the way, causing him to fall down. Craven continues continues to try and attack, and Spider-Man continues to tell him that he really needs to cut it out now. And after a few more swings, Spider-Man finally punches back, knocking Kraven into a car, which knocks him out. Spider-Man then tells everyone, "I did tell him to stop. You all saw that, right?" And as the reporters continue to film him, Spider-Man heads over to the limo and helps Judith out. Judith tells him thank you for saving her, and the crowds begin cheering and clapping. And then one of the reporters walks up and tells him, "That was amazing!" Spider-Man tells him, "No, it wasn't. 2 people died." As he begins to leave, the reporters ask if they can ask him a few questions, and he tells them no, he'd rather not. The reporter continues to pester him, telling him that what he did was amazing. Surely he would want to. And Spider-Man stops her and telling her, "You can return the favor by calling me a mutant freak or blaming this on me or something." They try to stop him again because maybe he would want to talk to them. They're live right now, and he tells her, "Fine." So the reporter asks, "What do you want the world to know, Spider-Man?" And he says that he is from a planet many galaxies far, far away. The reporters follow up with, "Really?" And Spider-Man says, "No, I'm just like Otto Octavius. I fell backwards into some powers and just want to help people so that people like Otto Octavius can't hurt anyone." So the reporter asks, "Why wear a mask?" And Spider-Man says that it's because he has friends and family that he doesn't want to put into the spotlight, so he protects them by wearing the mask. Even though wearing the mask might be corny, and it even forces idiots like Kraven to try and come after him, or J. Jonah Jameson to trash him to sell papers, he really doesn't care. And the reporter asks, "Why don't you care?" So Spider-Man says, it's because a guy a whole lot smarter than him told him that with great power comes great responsibility. But either way, the cops are coming. So if everyone's fine, it's time to go. He heads back home, and as soon as he opens the door, Aunt May asks where he's been. He says that he was at work, and May says that's funny because she called there and they said he hasn't been in all week. She gets up looking at his bruises and asks again, where was he? He says that he was fine. It was with Mary Jane. May sits back down stating, okay. She doesn't mind if he doesn't respect her, but he will respect the rules of this house. And Mary Jane was the first person that she called. May then tells him that until he can stop lying, he's grounded, which means no more bugle, no more Mary Jane giggles in the basement. It's only school and home. Peter smiles, stating, finally, he's a hero who's also grounded. But over in the S.H.I.E.L.D. holding cells, Otto Octavius, Doc Ock, is sitting in his cell muttering to himself, asking who Spider-Man is, who could Spider-Man be? And slowly, as he keeps asking himself, he begins to remember something from his past, when Norman Osborn had him following a little kid, a kid named Parker. Even returning home late the next morning, Peter heads out to school, where Mary Jane tells him that she watched him last night. All of the news channels are covering it. Peter tells her that he knows, but even though he saved the day, he got into a lot of trouble coming home so late. Mary Jane asks